need to use this.
Yeah.
It's kind of ugly, but the mycelium makes it beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
So sometimes you don't even see the actual design underneath.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny.
Which is nice then.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Creative Frequency. In today's episode, we're exploring how design can support ecological cycles, challenge the disposability of fast fashion, and push the boundaries of material innovation. We'll dive into the world of regenerative design, embracing slowness, circular thinking, and the transformation of deadstock and waste textiles. We'll also explore how living systems like mycelium can be integrated into fashion to reimagine not only how garments are made, but how they return to the earth. I'm joined by Helena Elston, a regenerative textile designer and creative director of Helena Elston Studio. Her work bridges science, sustainability, and art, offering a powerful alternative to fast fashion through thoughtful living design. Her work has been exhibited internationally, including at the London Design Festival and a Mycelium Futures exhibition in Berlin, and has been featured in leading publications like National Geographic and Design. Welcome.
Why is it so hard?
Welcome. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a coincidence that I messaged you to see if you were around and if you were available. And for those who do not know, you live in New York. And we're in London. And yeah, you happen to be in London for a few days. So I'm super grateful for your presence and also to learn a bit more about your journey. But yeah, thank you first and foremost.
Oh my gosh, thank you. It just so happened that I decided to come to London this weekend.
Yeah.
And this just worked out. It was perfect. And a lot of people didn't know that I moved back to New York.
Yes.
It kind of happened very silently.
Yeah.
But I come here frequently, so.
Perfect. For those who are intrigued now after listening to that amazing introduction, can you share a little bit about your journey or give us a brief introduction to you and then where your journey started and where you are now?
Yeah. Also, I'm happy we're doing this on Earth Day, which is also a coincidence.
Oh, really?
Yes, we are.
Yay! I didn't even realize. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. I'm a regenerative textile designer, and I use waste textiles, deadstock materials to recreate garments. And I use mycelium to decompose and applique the materials to create wearable structures, or things like these t-shirts where they naturally dye the materials and they could be fully washable. You could put them in the dryer and just trying to repurpose clothing and create beautiful pieces.
I love this. So what originally drew you towards like textiles and the exploration of like the different materials and regeneration and sustainability? What drew you to those concepts, as well as, I can do this and then figure out how I literally mold, and change the fabrics that I use? Yeah,
I feel like it's a really long journey, but it started a handful of years ago, like 10 years ago, when I was in the fashion industry, still in the fashion industry technically, but was working more in fast fashion. And I was experiencing all the waste systems that fast fashion created. And I could not justify it. I love fashion. I love expressing through fashion. It's important. It's intrinsic in our society.
Yeah.
But I realized that we needed to reconfigure our systems. And I decided, I was in New York at the time, and I decided, I want to look more into the materiality of things. Maybe this is where we can change the system. So I pursued my master's degree at the Royal College of Art in London. And that's where I started looking into biomaterials. I was just so interested in experimenting with natural materials and how you can create new materials, sustainable vegan materials. Instead, I looked at what is already out there? What can we do to solve a problem?
Yeah.
Even at a small scale. Okay, so I was looking at textile waste, which is one of the biggest global industrial polluters in the world. And I thought, okay, let's try and experiment with some of these biomaterials. When I was experimenting in my graduate program, I found that mycelium was the most interesting to me. And it took quite a long time. And I spent a few years researching and experimenting. And there was a lot of trial and error. But I found that it was the most amazing living system. And it's so intelligent. And we've only just scratched the surface of what it can do.
Yeah.
And it's a constant transformation. I'm still working through things. But that's basically how I got to where I am today, is just experimenting and making new things, but not using new materials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be the role of the maker in today's world then? How can we redefine design and, you know, being a designer and being a maker?
I think it redefines, especially studying at university, it helped me redefine myself as a maker and helped me understand, you know, why designers do what they do. And I think it's a lot about collaboration. I think it's about being inquisitive and curious and looking at the natural world and trying to find innovative ways to solve problems. And especially at the Royal College of Art, they really ingrained it in us. We have to think innovatively.
Yeah.
We have to think in innovative ways to make our world a better place. I mean, that sounds quite cliche, but just solve for problems and create solutions.
Yeah.
And I had amazing professors. And I think a big part about being a maker is being collaborative. It's talking to other people. It's being a part of a creative community, because I think being isolated sometimes is a good thing, but you know, when there's that constant conversation and constant discussion about what's happening in the world and what we can do together, I think that is so important, especially when it comes to creating solutions and biomaterials and fashion. We need to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess, how do you balance the experimentation of biomaterials and the demands of the wearability of fashion or clothing? How do you navigate that?
So balancing between those things is quite difficult. It feels like it's a bit of a dance, but biomaterials are full of potential. They're still emerging. They're beautiful, but they don't behave like traditional textiles in the fashion industry. And that's what makes it a bit difficult. I think ultimately the fashion industry needs to shift the mindset. And that's what my whole practice is. It's trying to shift the system, shift the mindset to be more aware of the imperfections of biomaterials and accepting it and listening to it. Yeah, I think part of the fashion industry is reimagining our expectations and our timelines. And that's part of the slowness that, you know, we were even discussing at the beginning, or you were discussing at the beginning. And we need to slow down with fashion. Potentials of biomaterials are incredible. And I understand that fashion is a utility. There needs to be some type of compromise there. And maybe that means we're building a bridge between two. Maybe you're making something out of biomaterials, and maybe there's another type of durable component that you need to add to it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where we need to start for it to be more accessible. So overall, the balance between fashion and biomaterials comes from reimagining the system, shifting our mindset, and being more accepting of maybe garments that can decay and grow and evolve. So.
Yeah. I love that. It's really about changing how we think about things and how we approach just our work, and just how we can push the boundaries in evolving the fashion industry.
Absolutely.
Would you say that the core of your practice is about raising awareness, or is it something else? Is it about providing kind of like a blueprint to alternative systems, fashion systems that we are familiar with? Or is it about creating art and disrupting the dominant narratives around design and around sustainability? Or is it something entirely different? Is it just like you experimenting? And if people love to wear the work, that's amazing. People want to see it in an exhibition space, that's amazing too. Like, do you have like, okay, this is what I really want my work to do? Or is it just like, no, free flowing?
Yeah. So I want to offer alternatives, but I also remind people, I want to remind people that fashion and the clothes that we wear are not separate from the earth. It's all interconnected.
Okay.
And we need to listen to the materials. And material intelligence is probably the most important part of it. And I think, I want to tap in more into exhibitions and more education so that people can come and see what it actually looks like and how it feels. I think there's a level of wanting to have a fashion business, but reimagining the system again. I think this whole conversation is about shifting mindsets, shifting systems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe it means using all waste textiles, deadstock materials, working with different companies or different waste systems to create new garments. But it's a slower system. And I think what's really important too is the garments to tell a story.
Yeah.
And I think once it tells a story, people can be more connected with it and they're less likely to throw it away.
Yeah.
So there's that part of fashion, and I want to keep it sustainable and I want to keep it ecological.
Yeah.
I want there to be an educational aspect to it too, because once people understand what kind of world we're in, or once people understand the fashion industry, I think we are understanding it. A lot of people are understanding it a lot more now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can make a change.
Okay. Yeah. So it's beyond the emotional attachment to clothing. It's really like seeing it as a living thing that is part of our lives.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem with fast fashion is the fact that we've been trained to throw away our clothes.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned for years and it's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable system. And again, textile waste is one of the biggest polluters.
Yeah.
And, millions and millions of tons of textile waste are ending up in landfills every year. And, when we wash our clothing, for instance, half of those textiles are made out of polyesters, synthetic materials, which are essentially plastics.
Yeah.
We wash those materials. We've been hearing a lot more about microplastics in the media recently.
I'm so scared. I've read too much.
Yeah. And we don't even know, how it's affecting us. We have some statistics, some understanding, but I think
the long-term impact is going to be.
And we wash our clothes, these, synthetic fibers, and the microplastics, they get into our waterways and our food systems, and then essentially back into our bodies when we eat. And it's been linked to diseases and cancers, and they found it in our brains, and we don't know what that means. So it's quite scary. And I don't mean to be, I don't want to be so morbid with it, but it's more about, hey, everybody, look, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Let's, even if it's a small scale project, we need to do something about it. And fashion's never going to go away. Fashion is intrinsically linked to our daily lives. Yeah. It's interconnected. It's on our bodies. It's in our homes. It's part of cultures and traditions.
Definitely.
It's never going away. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
At the very least. Yeah. But we just need to figure out some different ways to go about it. And we need to eliminate the fast fashion system.
Definitely.
Less collections, more slow, less, maybe more seasonal as well. We don't need to have 1 billion collections a year. Yeah. But a lot of companies are now starting to do that. There's some countries that are saying, we're doing 2 a year. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. I don't know if that's actually right.
Okay. Well, we can always check. And our listeners, I commend you to do the same.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to actually go into your work specifically. So we have the Fig series and also your mycelium, your mycelial boots, both which feel like the powerful intersections of fashion, science, and storytelling. Can you walk us through like the ideas behind those works? Just let's start there. Can you just give us what was going through your mind as you were working on those pieces?
I think it all comes down to mycelium. It comes down to that material. And if you don't mind me speaking about actual mycelium first and why I'm interested in it, because that's the basis of why I created any of this. So fig is like, this is kind of funny. I don't even know if you want to put this in here, but fig, I have a cat.
Okay.
And I adore her and I named her Fig.
Okay.
And I was just trying to find, a name for this collection. And figs are so, there's so many stories about fig trees and in Greek mythology and how it's, I think it's like the fig tree and like the tree of life and giving abundance, and mycelium is abundance. So fungal integrated garments. Yeah. But that doesn't sound that nice, the fungal. Yeah. Like it's mushrooms. Yeah. Okay, so my fig series, just technically speaking, it's made out of textile waste. And most of the pieces I made because I come from a fashion background. So, and you never know what you're going to get with textile waste. That's one of the hard things to work with, is that sometimes you don't know what kind of material you're getting. Yeah. So I'm always working with the materials and the fabrics to try and see what works best for different pieces, whether it's a jacket or a shirt or trousers. And the boots specifically, I am not a shoe designer. I'm not a footwear designer. Okay. But I had a friend that was getting rid of a bunch of shoes, and I was practicing with some of them, and I had so many failures. But those boots were so interesting because I did not think the mycelium was going to grow on it. And it did. And it was incredible. So cool. Yeah. And it started to become it started to become sculptural as well. I didn't dry them out properly. This is one of my first projects, and I didn't know how to dry the material out. And it started growing mushrooms out of the heels, which was really cool. Yeah. But there's a lot of potential there. And I think, doing a lot of this experimentation, it seems like, oh, why are you just experimenting? It's like, no, I'm experimenting to create potential, to see the potential of what can be and what. Yeah. Fig series is more of an ongoing series, and it's just a continuation of textile waste and mycelium combined to create wearable pieces. Yeah. And working through how you can wash these pieces and wear the jackets and make, I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to like talk about the work sometimes. Okay.
No, that's fine. I guess, would you want to see people wearing your pieces in a way, like the wearable garments, or have them in like boutiques and stuff across the world?
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. I think I would love to have people wearing the garments. Yeah. Because they're storytelling pieces, educational, and there's a difference between the jackets that I make and the shirts that I make.
I love that shirt.
These ones, thank you. These ones are, clothes that would just be discarded. And they're all naturally dyed. I love the way that I don't even know if you could see it in the camera, but the mycelium naturally dyes the material. And it sticks a bit as well. And so this has been washed a dozen times.
Oh, wow.
So this has been washed a dozen or so times and put through the dryer.
Yeah.
And
it still sticks. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting looking. And sometimes people stare at the shirt and I'm like,
are you staring at the shirt or?
Yeah. Or like, it's, interesting. Okay. So there's a difference between, the shirts that I'm wearing that are maybe more accessible because they can be washed. They can be thrown in the wash and it's easy to work or out and about. And then there's the jackets, the outerwear, the boots that are more sculptural pieces. Yeah. And they can still be worn. They're still worn. So they can still be worn, but they're lined and they're comfortable and they're more, you have to go dry clean them.
Okay, that makes sense. To go back to mycelium, so it is in a way, a very powerful metaphor and material. What does it represent to you, both scientifically and spiritually? Because as you said, it is a very intelligent living system. But what does it represent to you, like from a scientific perspective? Well, mostly from a spiritual perspective?
Yeah, I love that question because my whole practice comes from the interest of mycelium. I mean, it's the most important thing. I have this fascination, this passion for it. And I don't even understand it that much yet. And it's been years of researching it. I mean, scientifically speaking, it's incredible. It's beneath our feet. It has vast networks. It communicates. It helps trees communicate.
Yeah, I was thinking about trees as well.
Yeah, it's incredible. It provides nutrients. It helps disperse the nutrients. It decays organic matter. It's all part of our entire living system. If we didn't have it, like we just wouldn't have this world. It's the basis. It's the foundation of everything. It recycles and it collaborates with nature. It doesn't dominate by any means, which I think is really beautiful as well. Mycelium is so spiritual for me as well because it is about interconnection. And it reminds us that nothing exists in isolation. Everything has to work together. And mycelium is quietly working under our feet and it's changing and it's transforming. And mycelium is quietly working always. And it reminds us that change is always happening invisibly. It's kind of cool.
I feel like anything that is extremely impactful or like just powerful, it's always like beneath the surface. You know, it's like, it's quiet, it's silent, but its impact is just like immense. So I love that you like pointed that out.
It's quite poetic as well.
Yeah.
I think like that's where it comes from. I think when I first started out with it, I was trying to be a more artist and poetic and trying to understand myself, and mycelium helps me understand myself. And then I realized, okay, we need to put this into design instead of just, sculptural pieces.
Yeah. So your work has been exhibited internationally and you've also been covered by leading publications, as I mentioned before, like, for instance, with the zine. How was that process for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I didn't expect it. I was just making things because I loved making things. And I was so interested in mycelium and I was passionate about it. And it's all just it's just a domino effect, I think.
Yeah.
I think I started out really at London Design Festival because, well,
which is big as well. Like you started at London Design Festival. That's huge.
But I was in the Surface Design show in London years ago.
Okay.
And just from there, I ended up meeting people, amazing people in the same industry who also taught me a lot. And then they landed me a studio in West London. And from there, met London Design Festival people and sponsors and became a part of that. And I think just being vulnerable enough to share the work and put it out there, even though I was nervous about it. And sometimes it's quite hard to share your work. Especially after working so long on it, and you never know how it's going to be received. And during that show, there were so many people that came up and they were really interested in it. And that's how a lot of these publications came about. And the Dezine publication came about because somebody visited and they saw the exhibition.
Okay.
And from that Dezine publication, people started reaching out and there'd be other publications.
Amazing.
And I think it's a pretty small community of people that are looking into biomaterials and mycelium.
Okay.
So once you make those connections with people, everybody talks and we talk about each other and there's references and so it's a pretty cool thing, but it's ever evolving.
Yeah. So I guess like, especially if you're starting out, making sure that you put your work out there, and also like networking and like speaking with people and I guess visiting similar events and connecting with other artists, I guess, is a way to like get your work more in the public domain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's constantly talking with people.
Yeah.
Making friends in the industry and going to events, showing up, linking with people that are doing something similar to you. And if you can try and put your work out there, do it.
Do it. Okay.
Also, social media is really annoying. I know, but posting on social media is great
helpful.
Because, and I've also found so many people through social media and, have been so inspired by what they do. But also a lot of people have found me on social media, and that's where some other publications or exhibitions have come from. And it's from there. So as much as we don't like it, it's a good way to...
It's a tool, it's really to help you move forward.
For conversation. Too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Has it been easy for you to find your community? Do you feel like you have a community to fall back on?
Like a creative community or... Yeah.
I guess maybe within the creative artsy community, and then you have the science community. I don't know if it's a science community, but yeah.
I definitely have a community. And I think this biomaterials industry is so small that it's really easy to go out and message people and meet people. Everyone is interested in each other's work. And yeah, since it is a small industry, it's very easy to create community, and everyone is so willing to talk and be friends and, recommend you to another person. I just met up with an amazing bio designer in Paris a few days ago, and she was like, "Oh, you should go and meet this person and this person."
Lovely.
And there's always so many people around.
Lovely.
And especially in the fashion industry, there's a competition there. And I think with biomaterials, there's, at least for me, there's not really a competition.
Yeah. It's more communal.
It's more communal and let's work together.
Yeah.
And because that's the basis for what biomaterials are. We're trying to build a better earth.
Yeah. I feel the mindset is also very, very different versus someone that is I don't know, high couture, they want to have their work on catwalks and prestige places.
Yeah. It's quite exclusive.
Yeah.
It's quite exclusive. Yeah. And then you see people that are doing biomaterial workshops because they want to make it more accessible to people. And these are, sometimes they're, they've worked years to research how to create these things. And now they're trying to educate people, which I think is amazing. In the fashion industry, they're not giving away their trade secret.
Yeah.
Amazing bio designers just trying to educate people because they actually want things to change.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's funny because it's kind of you're on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But you're still in the same space and the same industry wanting to provide good, essentially. Whether this is creating an emotional experience and making people feel good about themselves through clothing, or really giving back to the environment in a way. So you also work exclusively with deadstock and waste textiles. What is your approach in finding and sourcing these materials and giving it, bringing it to life again, and protecting that slowness and the patience that it requires when it comes to regenerative design?
So with the deadstock materials, there's so many different places you can find it. And I feel like I'm always in abundance of it because now that people know that I work with it, there's so many people that are just giving the materials to me because they don't want them anymore. They've been meaning to throw them out, but they feel bad throwing them out. They don't want to donate them, because a lot of the donations, if people go and donate their fabrics, donate their clothing, especially in the US and the UK, half of it isn't even recyclable. And it ends up going into landfills overseas and, in different countries where they didn't even create the waste and they're overwhelmed with the waste. So I get a lot of material from people who work in the fashion industry. Interestingly enough, people in costume design, in different plays and musicals and things like that. And specifically in New York now, because I'm based there. There's a great shop called Fab Scrap. Shout out to them. And they have all deadstock materials. And I think the kind of hard part about deadstock materials and working with it is the fact that you don't really know what you're going to get sometimes. So I'm not a normal fashion brand where it's oh, I need to go get an organic cotton to work with this dress. No, I won't. I probably won't be able to get that I kind of have to just work with whatever is there. But the beautiful part about it is that I can't really have expectations of the final outcome. I don't know what the final outcome is going to be. That's what makes it beautiful. And sometimes some of the materials that I have, I'm like, oh, I need to use this.
Yeah.
It's kind of ugly, but the mycelium makes it beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
So sometimes you don't even see the actual design underneath.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny.
Which is nice then.
Yeah. And the slowness to it, and especially getting these resources, there is a slowness to it. Sometimes it takes time to find it. Sometimes the materials will be sitting in my studio for quite a while before I even use it because I don't know what the use for it is yet.
Yeah.
Also, the slowness of mycelium is really important in my practice. You know, it can take, 2 weeks to a month to grow mycelium on any of these garments. And in the fast fashion industry, that's not the case. We're churning things out left and right and throwing things out left and right. And it's a wild system. But my practice is completely linked with slowness and more seasonal works. And that's something that we struggle with now.
What's the common response that you've received from other people that have seen your work, that have been wearing your work? Yeah. What is the most common phrase or like, oh my God, comment that they've given you?
I think there's a few of them. There's people that are like, oh my God, that's so cool. That's beautiful. I want one. Can you make me one? I want one of these.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes because every single piece is one of a kind. So I can't replicate everything exactly the way they want it.
Yeah.
Most people are so intrigued. And they're like, I want to wear something that has mushrooms on it. That's so cool.
That.
And then there's other people who are more business oriented and they're like, how can you scale it?
Yeah.
How do you make money?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. It's also quite niche,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Most of the time people are really interested. There are some people that are freaked out and they're like, ooh, it's kind of gross. Mushrooms you're sitting on your body, but it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It's because once I make the pieces, it's a living thing.
Yeah.
It's growing on the material. But once I take it out of its environment, it's completely dried out.
Yeah. It's not going to continue growing.
It's not going to continue growing.
Yeah.
I've thrown it in the wash and the dryer.
Yeah.
So it's been, heat has been applied to it and it's fully safe. So it's not a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
I think people sometimes are like,
a bit icky.
It's kind of freaky.
Yeah. I feel like, but also our entire body is made out of several organisms and bacteria. And
so true.
So
think about that, guys. Remember that.
Like, it's obviously our brains just like filter like a lot of information. So we're not super sensitive or we don't think about these things. But I feel like if you would put your own body under a microscope, I don't think I could like.
Gross.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, but yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
It also doesn't smell either. People think of like, oh, does it smell like mushrooms? Once it's dried out, like there's no scent to it. And actually, mycelium is I don't know if this is like relevant, but
okay.
I think mycelium is antibacterial. I feel like I should be more like
I think I assume because I don't know. Well, actually, let me not say anything I don't.
Yeah. I also don't want to. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, but I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah,
if it is, then I will put it in the description. Like,
mycelium is antibacterial.
Yeah,
which is great.
Cool. That's really cool. What's your creative process like? Like, how do you get into your creative frequency? What's your flow state process?
I think it's tapping into the details of the design. It's being more intentional with it. And it's interesting because when I first started out in fashion, I was told that you need to design it first and then you get the material. And I'm designing from the material. I'm not really looking at how the garment is designed.
Okay.
I actually kind of don't care about that. I'm really material driven and I let the material create its own form. So that's what I mean that there's slowness in my practice. At a point, I need to give the mycelium time to create its own form and let it do what it needs to do. I can't predict what the final outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
That's the most beautiful part about it is something could, I could be working for days on a project and I grow mycelium on it and it comes out and there's nothing on it.
Yeah.
And it molded over because there needs to be in a sterile environment.
Okay.
And you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it comes out and it's beautiful and it's structural and you're like, wow, I can't believe this living system can do this.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's so liberating in a way because you're not like fixated on like it needs to be in this way, this angle, this,
absolutely agree. And I think especially high fashion, everything needs to be perfect.
Yeah.
Tailored perfectly.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a little bit chaotic and I love that. A little bit messy. And nothing needs to be perfect. But I think the fashion industry needs to accept that moving forward.
Yeah.
That nothing is ever perfect. There's going to be imperfections. They're going to need to adapt.
Yeah. Going back to, because as you mentioned a bit earlier on, you live in New York now. We met when you were still based in London, where I witnessed this entire process, like from the beginning. Well, not from the beginning, but when I met you. Was that the beginning?
Basically, I think it was like year 2 in.
Oh, okay.
So it was the beginning, but it took a long time to.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that was amazing. But what I wanted to ask, how did your living environment or your place influence your approach to creating? Like, is it different from back then? Because you live in New York now. So are you aware of how it's influencing you in different ways? Or is it just like you're just in your own bubble and you're just kind of doing this, you're going through the same process, but then it's just in a different place now, which doesn't really affect how you work?
I don't really think it affects how I work.
Okay.
I think it's pretty similar in both. I'm kind of am in my own bubble because it is so niche.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think it's also the people that I'm surrounded by. And I'm still very close with so many people here in London that work in a similar industry. And I've met amazing people in New York. And going back to the beginning about, surrounding yourself with amazing creative people that can inspire you.
Yeah.
That's so important. And the collaborative nature of this design work is really important. And that's what influences a lot of the work as well.
Okay.
So I don't think it's like any...
Like a specific place. Yeah. Okay.
I think they're pretty similar. It's just about,
So, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing where you are now and going through that journey? Is it something that you would have changed?
Relax. Like, relax. It's not that serious. Like, you're okay. But I'm still saying that to myself now.
Okay. Okay.
Like, am I going to get this done? Is this going to happen? It's like, no. Like, everything matters, but also nothing matters at the same time. It's okay. Take it easy and slow. Everything will come in its own time and its own path, and just like trust that things will come your way and it'll work out.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't,
that's
pivot.
Fine too.
It's fine.
What gives you hope right now then? Like in terms of whether this is design or in science and just the natural world, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is nature's ability to heal on its own. And we saw that in COVID as well.
Yes.
Everybody slowed down. We had to. And nature regenerated. It slowed down as well. And it was a beautiful thing. And I feel like we're kind of back to it, which I'm interested to see how things go. I'm a little bit scared. But the hope still lies in the fact that we have seen and we know that nature can heal itself.
Yeah.
Also, there's such a growing movement of artists, designers, scientists, thinkers in these industries, in fashion industry, in biomaterial industry. And that's what gives me hope, is that there's so many people that are so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And they're working together on it.
Yeah.
And that means that we can make a change. We can try and find solutions that we've never even heard of before. There's so much out there. And I think we're just scratching the surface. Mycelium gives me hope. Because again, we've only seen a small percentage of what it can actually do. There's so much more research that needs to go into it. And it's so exciting to think about the potential.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. There are brands that are actively looking for people like you to collaborate with and to like change the way that they are producing. And it's really focusing on crafts and like craftsmanship.
Absolutely.
So yeah, because you've collaborated with a few brands, right?
Yeah.
Based in London, I believe.
Yeah. Based in London. And the collaboration is amazing. And I think more brands need to do that. And that's how we start to change the trajectory of fast fashion, is introducing, introducing bio designers or people working with waste materials and just trying to figure out more innovative ways of using waste. There needs to be a lot more of it. I mean, there's some really brilliant companies out there that have started working with these designers and creating new collections. And some of these designers who are working with bio artists or bio designers, those are the ones that are taking the risk. There's not a risk, but they're the ones that are being a little bit more vulnerable, and they're showing people, hey, look, you can actually use these materials. They're not scary. Yeah. They're going to change things. And
would you say that you are a scientist and artist? Or like, yeah. Are you both? Are you just like, you don't really care about, no. How do people view you then? Because that's something I find interesting as well. Like,
I think people view me as a designer.
Okay.
Or people say, you're a scientist. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. There was somebody that had said at some point, there was a prop. No, somebody had said at some point to me, maybe you're an alchemist.
Ooh, like that. Yeah.
I like being an alchemist because I'm not a scientist. I'm not trained. So I can mix things together and make them beautiful. Yeah. Maybe that's better. But I think I qualify. I think I'm under artist, designer, alchemist, maybe a little scientist. All of those things.
Yeah.
No labels, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, no labels. I guess looking back at your journey, what has been like the biggest challenge that you had to overcome?
The biggest challenge, sticking with it.
Okay.
Sticking with it. Because I think when I first started there, working with mycelium and textile waste, it felt like this whole big world, and it was so scary. And sometimes it felt hard to keep going with it. And, when I first started, there was a lot of research that had been done about mycelium. There was some designers and architects working with mycelium.
Yeah.
But, mycelium's been around for hundreds of years in cultures, indigenous cultures and everything. But I think it's only in the past few decades that as a society only started talking about it in the last few decades. So there's actually like minimal research going on with, there's minimal research about mycelium. At this point, we still have so much more to learn.
It could be also, it doesn't have to be the materials that you're working with, the living systems that you're working with. It could also be like the career itself, like the progression of the career and how you are trying to sustain yourself and educate people along the way, and then maybe people might want to do this, but it's like, I don't know if this will pay the bills. I do want to do this, but and it is quite niche, and people need to be interested already for them to be like,
Yeah. So it is such a niche way of thinking and working.
Yeah.
And that's what's been very challenging, is that there's not a lot of people in it. Not a lot of people necessarily believe in it. I think they do more now because it's coming out in the media.
Yeah.
But it was this idea of having this passion. And I was like, okay, I need to stick with it. I love this so much.
Yeah.
But there's times where I'm like, I should just give up. Maybe I should just give up. But I never did it because I knew that there was something so important in it that I had to keep going. And I think there's a lot of people that really didn't believe in it as well. And now they're coming back.
Yeah.
They're coming back.
I feel like once someone breaks through, there's like, oh, so it is possible. And then they, yeah. So yeah,
Biggest challenge. Yeah.
good on you for not giving up. Like it's hard to even, to be a creative is already hard. And for people to then, it's your vision, you see what you're seeing, and you took a bet and, made it your goal to make sure that there's some change in the world that's positive.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I think another challenge is having to adapt as well, and recognizing that things are not always going to go my way. And that's what gave me almost a freedom of letting go, to let the material do its thing, and not attaching myself to any outcome.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with it. And that was a challenge that I had to really get over. I think other people have to as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're forced to do it. Like you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice at all.
Well, as we're coming to an end, I ask all of my guests this particular question. What piece or mantra or quote, or it can be anything, to be honest, do you go back to when you are in moments of doubt or when you are experiencing uncertainty? What gives you solace? Like in your lowest of lows, what is it that you go back to that gives you a bit of like, this push, this is what I needed?
I think sometimes that darkness, the failures and the blocks, those are openings. There's so much light in it. And sometimes you just need to sit and listen to those dark moments and those failures. And once you sit and listen to it, you realize that the world can open up. And sometimes it's hard to do that. But again, mycelium is this poetic thing, and I could always go back to it. But mycelium always grows in the darkness. And you don't know that there's change happening underneath you, and it's transforming everything underneath, inside you almost. And it's growing in the darkness. It's all part of the creative process, and you need to sit with it.
Yeah.
You need to sit with it to have those moments, and recognizing that you're always going to get through them, and that you're going to come out the other side. And sometimes you need to have those moments to be able to think differently and create different solutions.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
I had
you.
this was a great time. Thank you. And it's also very informative. So I also want to do more research and learn more about mycelium, just biomaterials. I try to be more sustainable in how I go through life, whether this is through food or just like how I move around, transport and stuff, but also with clothing. And you may be a bit more mindful of that. Like, let me take my time and be patient and let that reflect in other parts of my life.
And we're never going to be perfect.
No, true.
You can at least do small things. We can all do small things.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to make mistakes. It's okay.
Yeah.
At least we're trying.
Yes, we do. We do. Also, for those who want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
You can follow me on Instagram. I don't even remember what my Instagram is.
Instagram handle.
My Instagram handle or my website. So my Instagram handle is Helena Elston Studio. Follow me there. I have some really exciting projects coming up this year, which you'll see on my Instagram. I also have a website, helenaelston.com.
Perfect.
And you can always reach out to me. My contact info is on my site. So
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I got to see you.
Oh, same. It's been years. That's crazy.
Actually it's been years.
Yeah, it's been actually years. Okay. Thank you all for listening. And I hope you will be all ears for our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.